Everyone wants to claim the covenant, but there's one weekly sign that Yahawah gave to prove it, and most ignore it. It's not a feeling, a membership, or a belief system. It's a rhythm written into time itself. That separates the set apart from the cultural. In this part, we uncover the weekly sign that marks Yahawah's people and reveals who's really in covenant. We see here that Shabath is an eternal sign. It is a sign that's forever. That's the word I want to use. In fact, that's here. Exodus 31:16 through 17. So this is condensed, but it is a sign forever between me and the children of Yahawah. A sign forever. And as we like to say, how long is forever? I mean, it just doesn't have an expiration. So why man has put an expiration on it? Well, it becomes clear because man actually hates Yahawah and Yahawah. So, but it's a sign forever between me and the children of Yahawah. And then we see in Yahawah that if you turn from doing your own pleasure, and I want to pause there for a second, because this is so explanatory in and of itself. If you turn from doing your own pleasure, and the brother who just basically shared, that's what he said. That's what I shared as well. Turn from doing your own pleasure on my set apart day. On whose set apart day? It's Yahawah's set apart day. It's not our set apart day. It's Yahawah's set apart day. Then you shall delight yourself in Yahawah. So the delight yourself in Yahawah only happens in this case, in this scenario. It only happens when we stop doing our own pleasure on his day, his set apart day that he created, and then we can delight in him. This is not a restriction. It's not something that's meant to restrict us, but to bring delight. Can you guys grab that? Can you feel it? That it brings delight. It's not meant to restrict us because it's about him. And when we feel that it's a constraint, that it is something that restricts us, something that forbids us from doing what we want to do, then that's what it is. It's about us and not about him. And that is the key. It can't be about us. It has to be about him. There are no commandments that Yahawah gives that we should be ignoring. In fact, we can't ignore them if we want to be in line with him. And this is a command. So I want to pause here before I go to the next slide and see if there's any comments.
Yeah, as you describe that, it really feels like you're describing a foreign art and an ancient art. When you talk about delighting yourself in Yahawah, that just, as I'm listening to you describe it, and I'm reading it as you're reading it too, it just feels like it's so ancient and so like, man, how do you do that? It's like we've gotta get familiar with this practice, because I'm just thinking about it, I'm like, how do I truly delight myself in him? And it's like, I think if we go back to what scripture is asking us to do and just observing the Shabbat, we get to exercise that muscle, that spiritual muscle, because there's something to it. There's something more in depth when we that's the part that's blowing me away. It's like delight. When you describe that it's not supposed to restrict us, because people think, oh, you sacrificing what you want to do, but when you actually think of, no, it's actually liberating. It's actually a beautiful thing. It's actually about the light, but it's what's in him. It's like, man, that seems like a foreign and ancient and forgotten lost art, that I personally want to get more familiar with.
Well, I believe that's exactly what it is. So it is ancient. It is ancient. And ancient doesn't mean old when it comes to Yahawah and his will. It just means original. And if, for him, since he's the same yesterday, today, tomorrow, it means it's just what it is. It's just his will. It's not old. In fact, it's new to us every day because we are continuing to learn more and more about him. And to me, that's exciting. As we think about supporting witnesses to Shabath, there are things that we see here that are very powerful. One thing is very clear when we start reading these scriptures, that they echo each other and they support each other. And we see, there's something that happens that's related to this first Shabbat. And so we'll talk about that when Genesis is read. There's something that's related here to, we saw it earlier, but I think it needs to be emphasized that this sign between Yahawah and his people is critical. And then when we read Jubilees, we'll see something that's, I think, is pretty powerful. All right, so Genesis chapter 2, verses 1 through 3.
All right, here we go. Thus the Shamayim and the earth were completed in all their array. And on the seventh day, Elohim completed his work, which he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work, which he had made. And Elohim baraked the seventh day and made it Kodesh, because on it he rested from all his work, which Elohim in creating he had made.
Thank you, brother. So this is the first Shabath, the very first one. And this is the first time he kodashed anything was on this day. He made it set apart. And it tells us exactly how he did it. He worked until he stopped and rested. He wasn't resting because he was tired. He rested because of the creation that he had made and observing all the goodness that he had made. And if he, Yahawah, can observe all the goodness that he's made, what prevents us from, what stops us? What gives us the audacity not to rest and observe and to keep the appointment with him and reflect on all that he's done? If he can do it, and if he does it, because he still does, and we'll see that in a moment, what stops us from doing the same? So Ezekiel chapter 20, 12 and 20.
Yeah, how's that call? Verse 12 says, and I also gave them my Shabath to be a sign between them and me, to know that I am Yahweh, who makes them Kadash. And verse 20 says, and Kadash my Sabbath, and they shall be a sign between me and you, to know that I am Yahawah, your Elohim.
So when we think about this one, it's a sign. It's a mark, really. It's a mark of belonging. And without it, there is no distinguishing Yahawah from anyone else. It's a mark. It's a sign that we belong to the Most High, Yahawah. And we follow what He commands and not what man has designed. So on those two, Yahawah and Ezekiel and Genesis, any comments you guys have on those two before we go to Jubilees? If the covenant has a weekly sign, then time matters more than we think. But here's the truth. The time system we live in is not Yahawah's. In part 3, we expose how time itself has been hijacked and how to break free from the deception. Watch next. Time is broken, and most people don't know it. So step back into Yahawah's rhythm. Shalom.